The absolute state of California. It is a disaster, if you were to ask me. Now, I get it. California is very wealthy. It's not all blue. Like, the state votes blue, but there are conservative areas. There are farm areas. But I got to say, the problems in California are escalating, and it's getting pretty alarming. So we've got the rise of disease, homelessness, feces in the streets, unemployment, etc. Now we have this story. You may have heard that PG&E was going to be cutting power over a fear that their infrastructure could fail and cause wildfires. It happened. That's why they're doing it. Currently, there's a major wildfire in California. That's my understanding, and people have lost their lives. I can understand why they want to take this. Why they would want to take this action. So I can't blame. There's no real blame to go around. But there is a tragic story. California man, 67, who relied on an oxygen pump, dies 12 minutes after PG&E cut the power to his home to prevent wildfires. California is now in a state of disease and homelessness and rolling blackouts. You know, when I talked about this before, my question was, who would want to live there? And now we have this problem. Now, they're being very careful not to claim his death was directly a result of the power being cut. It may be because it wasn't, or it may be because these people can't go up against PG&E. But Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, issued a statement, essentially saying someone's got to be responsible for this. Let's read the story so you get the general idea, and then we'll talk about the problems that are California. And what I really want to talk about after we go through this news is, what do you think will happen when the climate activists, want this dramatic reduction in power and all that? Listen, people who are diabetic need to have their insulin refrigerated, okay? Without power, they're at risk. People on oxygen machines, they're at risk as well. Tell me your solution, because California is in dire straits. They say, a Northern California man dependent on oxygen died just 12 minutes after Pacific Gas and Electric shut down power to the area as part of an effort to prevent fires. El Dorado County Fire Chief Lloyd Ogen said on Friday that a call was placed to the fire department from Pollock Pines at 3:30 a.m. on Wednesday. Crews arrived at the scene and found Robert Martis, Sr., 67, unresponsive and were unable to revive him, according to the Mountain Democrat. Ogen said the man's oxygen equipment required power, but could not say whether the shutdown was related to his death. So they're being careful, but basically, he had a machine that was plugged into a wall and a battery-powered machine. I don't know why. Perhaps they didn't know exactly when the power was to be shut off, but in the middle of the night, he apparently he woke up with no oxygen, struggled to get to his battery-powered machine, and he didn't make it. This is completely irresponsible. You know what, man? Let's read. Martis Sr.'s daughter, Marie Aldia, told Fox 40 that her father had several health issues and she believes the power cuts were involved in his death. She said, he had health issues. He had really bad COPD, which didn't help, and he had congestive heart failure and other health issues. But the power going off and him not being able to get to his oxygen I believe, is what did it. Martis Sr.'s oxygen tank reportedly lost power during PG&E's power shutdown, and he was unable to reach his battery-operated oxygen tank in time. He'll never see my kids get married. He'll never see his grandchildren, Aldia said. How do you fix that? You don't. You can't. Something got taken away from me that I can never get back, and I will miss my father forever. This is a truly heartbreaking story. We have fought so hard as human beings to develop the technology to save lives, to make sure our loved ones can survive these ailments. 100 years ago, this man probably wouldn't have made it. There wasn't going to be a battery-powered oxygen tank or a wall-powered, a shore-powered oxygen tank. It didn't exist. But we've made great strides. And what people need to realize in California, I mean, this was a natural disaster. This is wildfires. I don't have to tell you. But to those who are talking about these dramatic, sweeping environmental changes, you realize you'll be rolling the clock back on technology that we need to sustain life. People who would not have survived 100 years ago are dependent upon this electricity and this energy. Now, there are some people who can't charge their electric cars, and that's also bad. But, gas shortages have happened in the past, too. So in this particular instance, I think it's important to realize that there are people completely dependent upon these fossil fuels to be alive. Let's read more. PG&E spokesman Jeff Smith said it had not been able to confirm the accuracy of the report. The power company told Fox 40, we have no information on incident and have not been able to confirm the accuracy of the report. We refer you to local officials in El Dorado County. Governor Gavin Newsom spoke out on Friday. I thought it was Newsom, whatever. copy editor, about the tragic death. Losing a family member is horrific, and to the extent that this was the reason why, I hope that is investigated, and I hope those responsible are held to account, he said. The news of his death comes on the heels of the deaths of 2 others from the wildfires on Thursday. A man in his 50s who suffered cardiac arrest, and Lois Arvikson, 89, after a fire swept through her mobile home park. It's unclear whether the unnamed victim was pronounced dead at his home or in another location. They're going to talk about the wildfire, so we'll get into this, but I will stress, if they didn't shut down the power and it sparked a wildfire that killed several people, we would be mourning their deaths. Because they chose to shut the power down, this man died. Now, here's the true philosophical conundrum. We don't know if let's say they kept the power on. What if a fire started? What if several people died? We would then be outraged, saying, why didn't they do something? Why didn't they shut the power off? They knew these gusts were coming. And because they did, we see the results. This is the unfortunate reality of life, that we don't know what could have been. We can make guesses. We can think about what we did and how to better mitigate this, this problem in the future. If we're going to have blackouts planned, then we need to make sure we know who's going to require special, tools. Perhaps they should have been brought to a hospital or a facility with generators to make sure people survive and medical staff. I don't know. Maybe people don't want to do that. Maybe they want their, what little independence they have when they're living on an oxygen machine. The point is, we might look at the situation and be outraged that this man lost his life. It could be worse. We just don't know. We don't know. Imagine they left the power on and then 20 people died. So, in the end, hard decisions have to be made. And when they are, people often get really angry and they're outraged and say, why are you doing this? So I'll only tell you this. I look at California as a failing state. I don't want to say it's failed. I mean, they're really wealthy. Let's be real. But with the escalation in human waste and disease and homelessness and these power outages, I don't know what to tell you, man, but this does not sound like a comfortable first world place to live. You can go find a nice little rural town with gigabit internet, with abundant food and heating and electricity, and not have to worry about any of this. No homeless, no diseases. There's a serious problem happening in California that doesn't affect even poorer areas in the rest of this country. You want to live in California. It's a high cost of living. It's a wealthy place to live. For the most part, not everywhere. Of course, there's poor areas. But you could go move to a small town. You can move to Cincinnati and not deal with any of this and live in first world conditions. It's really weird to me. They say winds gusted dangerously as forecasted before calming. You know what, man? Daily Mail is one of the worst when it comes to copy editing. Winds gusted dangerously as forecast before calming in North Carolina, where PG and Electric faced hostility and second guessing over its widespread shutoffs. Governor Gavin Newsom criticized PG&E, and ordinary customers complained about the inconveniences caused by the unprecedented blackouts that began midweek. PG&E, though, suggested it was already seeing the wisdom of its decision borne out as gusts topping 77 miles per hour raked the San Francisco Bay Area amid a bout of dry, windy weather. We have found multiple cases of damage or hazards caused by heavy winds, including fallen branches that came in contact with overhead lines, said Samit Singh, a vice president for the utility company. If they were energized, they could have ignited. Now, here's the thing. I've talked to a lot of people about this. I'm not a firefighter. I can't tell you. But my understanding is that fires happen. Death and decay and this brush builds up over time and then burns. And because humans have stopped these fires because we want to live there, it builds up to the point where the fires become substantially worse. Now, you'll have climate activists saying, look how bad the fires are. And it may actually not have to do with, climate change. It may have to do with human intervention, allowing this fuel to build up until finally the ignition happens and it's really, really bad. I don't know. Don't cite me. I'm not a scientist. All I can really say is, why live in California? After all of these problems, a man loses his life, whether they were right or wrong. You've got blackouts. You've got disease, homelessness. It is not being solved. It is getting worse. Pollutants, needles flowing into the ocean. Why live there? I get it. The weather's nice in SoCal, but man, there are other places to be safe, to be secure. We have here some photos of, there's another fire. So this is the fire known as the Saddle Ridge Fire. It broke out after 9 p.m. on Thursday in Sylmar, north of Los Angeles. Pictured a helicopter drops water. For those that are listening, you can't see it, but there's a really bad fire. They say because of the dangerous weather in the forecast, PG&E cut power on Wednesday. This we know. It's affecting about 543,000 businesses and residences. Another 195,000 customers remain without power. Experts say a customer includes between 2,000 and 3,000 people. Wow, really? Is that what we're saying? So we're talking about potentially millions of people? Wait, what? One customer includes between 2,000 and 3,000 people? Are they? Oh, I see. Are they talking about like counties then? I don't know. Areas without power include. Okay, I'm not going to read it all that. You get the point. I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm not going to make this one super long, but I feel for this family. It's saddening, but I believe this should be a wake up call to the people who live in that state. Man, you got to figure something out. It's not going to get better. It's only getting worse. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. YouTube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all there.